Hi guys, it's me Jen and today I'm back with a brand new video. Yes, I filmed the whole 12-minute video not realising that my hair was doing this. Yes, it annoys me too, but we're just gonna move on. I never thought that I was gonna be filming this video today. I passed my driving test! I passed my driving test last Monday, which was the 14th of November. However, my driving journey started about 2 years ago when I turned 17. I feel like this is going to be quite a long video. I guess the first thing that I'm going to start off by saying is that I feel like there are two types of people when it comes to learning to drive. There are the people that are super enthusiastic, so excited, maybe they grew up loving cars. I'm not meaning to gender stereotype, but obviously there's a lot of boys and there are a lot of girls too that are really passionate about driving and fly through their test, no problem. Whereas I feel like I was in the other group of people. Doesn't know anything about cars, driving wasn't really something which came naturally to me. I felt very awkward at first, I was very nervous, which are completely normal feelings. I had applied for my provisional license well in advance of my birthday, so as soon as I turned 17 that was me able to start learning to drive. I still felt like I was too young, I wasn't ready to take on this responsibility of driving. At school I think I've always been very academic, so the thought of this practical test definitely freaked me out a bit. It definitely took me a long time to get very comfortable and used to driving around. I was always very overcautious. I did put a lot of pressure on myself because I wanted to be perfect. I really beat myself up when I made mistakes. The thing about driving is people make mistakes all the time and you need to be able to cope with that and get over it and realise where you went wrong. I had a lot of feelings attached to driving. You guys know that I am a very stressful person normally. I took a lot of the other stresses that I had and combined them with the stress that I had for driving. Stress and driving just don't go together because it just makes things even worse. I didn't sit my driving theory test until I was really quite comfortable in the car, which did take me quite a while. I feel like it was June 2015 and I passed that first time and I was absolutely over the moon. That wasn't really an issue for me, to be honest. One of the tips that I would probably give you is download the DVLA apps. There's a whole bundle of apps that you can download from the App Store that have the hazard perception test and there's lots of quizzes on there. The app literally asks you the exact same questions in the same format as the test, so if you manage to nail them then you will have no problem when it comes to the test itself. And it came to about December last year when I finally felt like I was ready to try and sit my first ever driving test. Now, if you guys have been around since this time last year, in one of my Vlogmas videos from last year, I told you guys about what happened the first time that I tried to sit my driving test. As you guys know, I still haven't sat my driving test and it was actually booked for this morning. I had booked a driving lesson this morning just before my test. My test was at like 11:20 or something, and I had a lesson and everything was going fine and I practiced all my manoeuvres. Yeah, so everything was going really well. Drove up to the test centre with my driving instructor. There's like a little road that leads up to the driving centre in this industrial estate and the driving centre is right at the bottom of the road. My driving instructor tells me to stop, to pull over on the left, so I stopped and I was like, oh, why are you stopping me? Like, is he gonna quickly go over anything else before I sit my test? But no, he turns to me and he says, I'm really sorry, but you're not gonna sit your driving test today. What? No, I literally waited like a year. What are you talking about? No, today's the day. Do you not think I'm ready? Did he cancel my test? No, we kind of had a look around and the gates were locked. There were no cars in the car park. There was 3 other cars there and they were also learner cars who were also waiting for their tests. I had been notified that the examiners today had decided to go on strike and that meant that my driving test had been cancelled, even though I had already booked a lesson and turned up and no. I was so nervous. This was the first time I was ever going to sit my driving test and it was cancelled and nobody showed up. To be honest, I think the disaster that I had on my first driving test was foreshadowing for what was to come. Really annoying thing about where I live is that it is so difficult to get your driving test booked, your practical driving test, because there's at least a 3-week gap. There could be a gap that's up to a month between one test and the next. There's just so many people that want to try and sit their driving test and there's not enough examiners. The only good thing is that you can try and see if anyone has cancelled last minute. You can steal their slot, but it does just mean that you have to constantly be checking the DVLA website, which is a bit of a hassle, and you need to get in there quick and make sure that your driving instructor is also available on that date, so it is really difficult, which is definitely one of the reasons why it's taken me so long to get through my driving test. I also forgot to add that it costs about £60 a time to sit your driving test. I have obviously sat it quite a lot of times. It's not like you can fail and then book one for like the next week. That is very unlikely to happen. My driving instructor was just the best. He was so patient with me. I was so anxious all the time. He was just so funny and he really put me at ease. There were so many times that I wish that your driving instructor could just pass you because they've had the most experience with you in the car and they know what you're like and if you are ready to go onto the roads. And I feel like a lot of people think because you've failed your driving test more than once, more than twice. I'm not going to tell you how many times that I failed my test, but just because you have failed your driving test does not mean that you're a bad driver. And I hate the stigma that surrounds driving, because just because you pass your test first time doesn't mean that you're a good driver, and I wish people would stop caring so much. Honestly, looking back, I'm really glad that I didn't pass my driving test first time. It would have been really great, but if I had passed my driving test first time, then I don't think that I would be as good and as experienced a driver as I am now, especially because I was really nervous. I feel so much more relaxed driving now, and it's like two different people when you compare me driving now to me a year ago when I first tried to sit my test. I know that a lot of you guys watching this will not have a clue about driving. Some of you won't be able to drive yet, some of you might be learning to drive at the moment. So I thought I'd give you a little lowdown about how it works, because trust me, I have been through my driving test so many times that I must be an expert on how it works. Practical driving test always starts off with an eyesight test, so you'll go outside the centre and you'll have to read a number plate from a distance just to make sure that you will be able to drive safely and see the other traffic around you and read the traffic signs, because obviously that is very important. The test usually lasts about 35 to 40 minutes of driving, and there is a section of the test known as the independent driving section, where the examiner will give you a destination and you will have to follow the road signs in order to get there for about 10 minutes, so you have to use your own sense of direction. You won't fail your test if you go the wrong way, as long as you drive safely. On one of my tests I took a wrong turn at a roundabout and ended up going up the Glasgow road rather than going back towards the test centre, which added quite a lot of time onto the length of my driving test. Before you even get into the car, the examiner will ask you a couple of knowledge questions about the car. They might ask you to tell them where you can find certain information about the car, to show them how to work the horn, how to turn the lights on, how to open up the bonnet, and your driving instructor will obviously help you prepare for answers to those questions. But again, if you get them wrong during the test, that's okay, you will get a minor. The assessor will have a sheet a little bit like this one. They've split all the different aspects of driving into different sections, such as your use of mirrors, your signalling, roundabouts, junctions, so that if you were to make a mistake in that area, you will get what is known as a minor. I think you're allowed something up to about 15 minors in your driving test, and if you get any more than that you will fail. But you can also receive a major, which is like a serious or a dangerous mark if you move out of your lane, pull out in front of a car, stop suddenly, and if you get any of them on your driving test then you will instantly fail. You will also have to complete different manoeuvres. I was lucky that I never really struggled with my manoeuvres. Obviously I have had a lot of practice with them over the year that I've been learning to drive. They will usually ask you to do 2 different manoeuvres during the test as well, things like a bay park, reversing around a corner, turning in the road, an emergency stop. So in my driving test that I had on Monday, which was obviously my last, I only got 2 minors, so I was absolutely over the moon. Obviously you want to try and get as little minors as you can. I just had something in my head which was making me extra nervous and do really strange things on my test, which I didn't do in any of my driving lessons. The only thing that was holding me back from passing my practical test was myself. My parents were amazing as well, especially since my dad has finished work. He has been taking me out in the car all of the time, to and from, picking my sister up from school, to uni, and if you can, it's really great that on top of your driving lessons you can get out and about with your parents. The more experiences that you have on the road, the better a driver you will become. At the end of the test, waiting to find out if you've passed or failed, it is horrible. It is the worst feeling in the world when they turn to you and say, "I'm sorry, but you've failed your test today." There were so many times that I felt like I was never going to pass. Definitely for the first few hours after you come home from failing your test, you feel miserable. For me, it was horrible that I kept failing my test, because it definitely knocked my confidence, and I went into my tests feeling even more anxious than before because I really didn't want to fail again. I'm so glad that I didn't give up. all of my friends were passing their tests and I was seeing lots of people younger than me starting to pass their tests, and it was so difficult for me. It made me so upset and frustrated. You've just got to try and push your nerves to the side and concentrate on driving and everything will be okay. Try and be as confident as you can. I could not believe it on my test on Monday when he turned to me and said that I'd passed. I started crying straight away. I was shaking so much. I was just so happy that I'd finally passed. And I can honestly say that it was the greatest achievement of my life. Like, I am so proud that I finally passed. I do have my own little car sitting outside. I've got a little spider on my antenna as well. Just the sense of freedom that you get when you pass your driving test is amazing. First time I went to drive by myself was so strange but so empowering. My family have all sent me little cards and things. A little cousin even drew a picture of me and my car. And I'm wearing a t-shirt which says I passed my driving test. I think the main point of this video was really, you're not alone if you failed your driving test once or more than once. There are plenty of people that have failed their driving tests. And most importantly, just don't give up. Keep going, because eventually you will get it. You will feel comfortable. Practice makes perfect. If I can do it, you can do it. Trust me. If you do have any other questions about my experience driving or just about driving in general, make sure you leave me a little comment down below. I will reply to all of them if I can. I really love making videos like this because I feel like it just symbolises really important milestones in my life. It's something which I will remember for the rest of my life. Also, I don't know how well you can read it on my little sign. It is officially 10 days to Vlogmas. A couple of you guys have been commenting on my videos asking me if I'm going to be doing Vlogmas this year, and the answer to that is yes, of course I'm going to be doing Vlogmas. For the first week or so I definitely will still be at uni, so it's going to be difficult, but I'm going to try my absolute best. I am so excited. And yeah, that is all for today. Make sure that you give this video a like if you enjoyed it, if you want to see more videos like this about me telling you stories about things, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!